you know, Cynthia Davis and Ed Emery are very they're on the far right of the party, but they're very, very pro-life. They're very big in the pro-life movement. They're very anti-spending. They endorse some of the main principles of the current Republican Party in Missouri, and because of that, their votes are important. And so that's where it creates a problem for the party. Keep in mind, there was a bill before the legislature this year, there was an important bill for the Republican Party that at one point had some language in it related to this birth certificate issue. It got taken out. It was very quiet. The leaders made sure that it went away. There was no real press coverage on it. But that's where the story is interesting, is that there is this very uncomfortable alliance between mainstream Republicans and fringe Republicans because they do share some of the same values on these other mainstream issues separate from the birth certificate conspiracy theory issue.
Tony, I've been covering politics of one sort or another probably since you were a zygote, but here's what gets me. I mean, to speak plainly, this definitely walks and talks like a duck. This is extremist stuff by anyone's definition, and yet people of some stature within the Republican Party are buying into it. It seems to me this would play right into the hands of the Democrats who would say, see, these guys are all crazy wingnuts believing in this stuff from Mars, and why should anybody pay any attention to them?
It does play into your hands, and I don't know if you watch any of the late night sort of liberal Democrat programs, your Jon Stewart and your Stephen Colbert and your Keith Olbermann, guys who are clearly on that side of the
well, I know Olbermann.
They've all picked up on the Cynthia Davis thing, and they've been showing video clips of her. And Olbermann called her the worst person in the world the other day. So,
and this was about something completely different.
This was about something different. This was about her saying that hunger motivates children. But the point is, they are picking up on this and trying to make a political issue out of it. And that's where it gets a little bit dangerous as a reporter, because it is a political issue for the Democrats to try to say, look at how all the Republicans are. And, Missouri voters are pretty smart. They know that not all Missouri Republicans buy into this conspiracy theory, and they aren't all like that. But that's where the danger is for the party. It does concern the party that they have these fringe members espousing these sorts of views.
Yeah, I mean, one wonders, Cynthia Davis represents a relatively affluent suburban chunk of suburban St. Louis. This is not exactly the territory one would think is full of these people who are wearing tinfoil hats to keep the aliens from reading their brainwaves, and yet it sounds like their elected representative is right there on that. That's why I'm mystified on this stuff, that this stuff is so beyond anything even approaching the political mainstream in American political life. I'm wondering not only how these people got elected, but how they came to positions of power in the first place.
Well, I can tell you there were somewhere between 25 and 40 people at the Jeff City event. People were kind of coming and going, so I don't know what a fair number is. And there were a few members of media, and they weren't all your toothless uncle down in the trailer by the river. They were a lot of senior citizens. There were some younger people. They were all white, I'll tell you that. But, you could look at that crowd and not say, boy, this is a bunch of fringe people, if you're just going to make stereotypes. And there were people there that definitely believed, based on their questions and based on their reaction, they believed the conspiracy. They had no problem believing the conspiracy. And, as a journalist, I have a hard time, saying, well, this person's fringe and that person isn't, because a lot of different people on the left and the right are fringe on certain issues.
Yeah.
And, so that's where the party struggles. Either party, wants to be the big tent party that brings in lots of people, but depending on who you bring into your big tent, you create a perception problem for you as a party overall. And that's where the Republican Party in Missouri has to deal with this issue. When state representatives are going to these events and talking about legislation, as Ed Emery was yesterday in Jeff City.
What legislation was he talking about?
He thinks there's a problem. He thinks the Constitution isn't being followed, and he wants the state to do something about it. I don't know what. But
secede?
You know, Ed Emery's generally a man of his word. I would not be surprised if next year he files some sort of bill requiring Missouri to verify the original birth certificates of any candidates for president. I mean, that would be the sort of legislation that he would propose.
Okay, quick final question, Tony. I mean, to a reasonable person, this seems patently insane, but we'll give folks the benefit of the doubt. Do you think there is any political price to be paid by Representative Emery or Representative Davis or anyone else, or do you think their constituents in the party will just shrug it off and life goes on?
Well, you know, here's the reality of Missouri politics. They're both term limited. And so were they running for re-election in their relatively safe state house seat? Probably not, because of the percentage of people that vote and they have the power of incumbency. If either of them wants to run for further statewide office, as Cynthia Davis has indicated she might, not sure if Ed does or not, that's where I think potentially it would become an issue, because clearly their opponents would have, both their opponents within the party and their opponents in the other party, Democratic Party, would have a lot of ammunition at this point.
Post-Dispatch and STLtoday.com reporter and columnist Tony Messenger joining us from Jefferson City this morning. Tony, a pleasure. Have a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Thanks, Charles. You too.